by a terrorist that came here from Afghanistan. Her sacrifice and his struggle will not be forgotten, so please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. I want to thank our witnesses for being here today to discuss ways to strengthen America's workforce with one of the best populations of Americans. Those are veterans. They know where to be, when to be, and what uniform to be in, and they're not on drugs. The purpose of today's hearing is to examine how the Department of Veterans Affairs provides opportunities for veterans to explore non-traditional education, whether that be through apprenticeship, on-the-job training, or the Transition Assistance Program. And I look forward to continuing the nonpartisan spirit of this subcommittee, along with Ranking Member Mr. Pappas, great to see him after Thanksgiving, to ensure that the VA is working in lockstep with today's job market to meet the needs of today's veterans. Unfortunately, the Department of Labor was unable to come here today because the Senate has continued to slow walk the confirmation process of President Trump's appointees, and I encourage them strongly to just get these people in place. This is not a political issue. We need our political leaders in the executive branch to be able to execute the programs that we write for them. Last Congress, the Biden administration DOL vets consistently failed veterans. We had multiple hearings about that. By the end of the Congress, their employment statistics were worse than a regular American job center. This committee must hear how DOL vets is going to turn it around, and I look forward to having Mr. Workman testify shortly after he's confirmed. On this note, we had a rather contentious meeting with Mr. Tim Cummings, who is in place now, and I'd like to apologize to him for getting a little senior chiefy on him, which I did. And I have the utmost confidence in Secretary Chavez-DeRemer and also Secretary Collins to work this out for the betterment of the veterans. That's very important for all of us, and we do understand that's the higher purpose. This hearing is not only getting these VA programs back on track, but also to note the importance of shoring up American manufacturing as a national security issue. I also serve on the House Armed Services Committee, and I can't tell you enough how badly America needs to re-energize defense manufacturing so that we're always ready for today and tomorrow to defend our way of life. One of the best ways to do this is to show these companies that have jobs available that there are thousands of veterans ready to fill them. Many veterans use the GI Bill within a year of transitioning out of the military, oftentimes as a fallback option when they do not know what their next mission is. And veterans using VA's OJT and apprenticeship programs are able to supplement their income with both the living stipend payment from the VA for their post-9/11 GI Bill benefits as well as wages from their employer while they are enrolled in these VA programs. At the end of their training program, they're able to step right into a beneficial career. I don't know of many major programs at institutions of higher learning that can promise a job at the end of their programs. This promise of employment through the apprenticeship training is what makes the VA program so special and can help combat underemployment and suicide in our veterans population. In VA's most recent annual benefits report, the number of veterans using their post-GI Bill to pursue OJT or apprenticeship continues to decline. In 2023, there were only 1,008 apprenticeships and 776 OJT participants, representing less than 1% of the post-GI Bill population. With some states having 0 individuals participating in this program, we're spending around $241 million a year on administrative expenses, which include staff salaries and counseling services for such a low success rate, and that's just pathetic. I mean, that's just gotta stop. The number of veterans in these programs and our administrative spending are concerning, especially given the evolving needs of today's workforce in the 21st century. This Congress, my subcommittee has championed key legislatives regarding VA's apprenticeship programs. My bill, H.R. 982, the Warriors to Workforce Act, would increase the monthly housing allowance that a veteran pursuing an apprenticeship or on-the-job training receives during a 6 to 12 month from 80 to 90%. Additionally, Representative Barrett led a bill that passed the House, H.R. 3055, the Transport Jobs Act, which would connect military veterans with supply chain employment while helping veterans secure careers that put their skills and expertise to use. And my friend from Arizona, Representative Siscomani, has an important bill, H.R. 1458, that would expand GI Bill opportunities to get veterans into mechanical fields. Even Ranking Member Pappas, Chris, right here, has a bill which I'm co-sponsoring, H.R. 2954, the Veterans Transitioning to Trucking Act, which would allow VA to access as a state approving agent for apprenticeship programs in more than one state to receive VA approval. It's an outstanding bill, Chris. Clearly, this goal of getting veterans at the forefront of critical positions in American economy is a nonpartisan issue. I would now like to yield to Ranking Member Pappas for his opening remarks.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for the bipartisan spirit there as you highlighted some important initiatives on the legislative front. I'm really glad to be here for this important hearing. And before I begin, I want to just state that I'm disappointed that DOL vets won't be joining this hearing and we won't be hearing their testimony today, but I'm glad to have VA with us. There's an important issue that I wanted to address at the outset here, and that's the issue of Chapter 35 benefits. And I think it's important to hear from VA about the fact that 75,000 survivors and dependents using Chapter 35 benefits have seen delays over the last many months. Veteran survivors and dependents across the country who rely on these benefits for housing, education, or anything else have been left in limbo with no acknowledgement of the issue or any indication from VA when the problem will be resolved. Now, we've got a hearing in a few weeks on this topic, but I was just discussing this with the chairman in advance of this hearing. I'm hopeful to hear more from Mr. Smith today, that he can communicate an update in terms of what's going on, not just for us here in the room, but for the veterans, families, and survivors at home that have been waiting for their benefits for far too long. I'm respectfully requesting this because we're at the end of the semester, 4 months in. Beneficiaries haven't been able to receive payments and can't wait another 2 weeks to find out what is happening and what the status is. It's just unacceptable that VA has failed to communicate when answers are needed today. We've been hearing from this in our office. To put a human face on this, I have a disabled veteran from Laconia, New Hampshire, who reached out to our office because his son's benefits were delayed a couple months at that point in time. Chapter 35 beneficiaries, they need to budget, they need to sign leases, pay for textbooks and food, and they need answers. So at the hearing in 2 weeks, I expect VA to send a prepared witness to directly respond to these challenges and to talk about the substantive specific information that can help us understand this situation. The witness should be a political appointee that will not pass the buck. So with tens of thousands of Americans' lives impacted by VA's error, it's absolutely unacceptable that not a single VA official has bothered to respond to letters that have been sent by Ranking Member Takano, Ranking Member Blumenthal, and myself to the department. It's unacceptable that the department canceled the briefing on this topic on October 1st. I know that one will be conducted later, that it was over 2 months from when this was originally requested. And it's almost unbelievable that we found out that the impacted beneficiaries grew from 750 people to over 75,000 through the press. There was no communication from the department to the committee about this. So this isn't a partisan issue. We all have student veterans and survivors in our districts who have waited months for any information. And so in that spirit, Mr. Chairman, I hope we can work together on this and focus on getting the answers that our constituents deserve. Lastly, when we do convene a hearing on this, it's critical that we hear directly from student veterans themselves, from their families, from survivors to fully understand the impact on this failure on their lives. Now to the topic at hand today, employment pathways for veterans. There's a variety of government programs designed to help veterans secure employment after their service, but we frequently hear from companies that navigating all the programs in the various agencies is confusing and it doesn't meet the needs of employers. It's clear to me that much more progress needs to be made to improve VA's, DOD's, and DOL's systems so that more employers are willing to participate. When you compare the results for employment-focused programs like SkillBridge with education-focused programs like VetTech, it's clear that involving employers early is key to placing veterans in jobs and careers. Data shows that programs run directly by employers, trade groups, and unions where veterans get on-the-job training, upskilling, and certifications continue to result in successful job placements while companies save on recruiting and salary and the government saves on training costs. It's a win-win. This dynamic with the government paying a living stipend and employers paying for training is a perfect example of a public-private partnership that benefits everyone involved, most importantly, the veteran. That being said, we need to continue to ensure that these partnership opportunities aren't limited to big business. Small and medium-sized companies must have the opportunity to participate, to train and hire veterans, which may be where trade groups and unions come in. Our small businesses and union partners strengthen communities and can provide veterans opportunities closer to home. So today I'd like to hear from our employer panel on their interactions with various DOD, VA, and DOL vets programs, their thoughts on if we should specialize different programs further, and what a single point of entry for employers would look like, and how we should advertise the benefits of participating in these programs to the rest of the business community, and who should be responsible for that. So in closing, I just want to note one difference between the programs that we're talking about today and the GI Bill. Since its inception in 1944, the GI Bill's educational component has been about more than just going to school. It's a tool to help reintegrate service members back into civil society after their service, to enmesh them back into their communities, and to build connections after being gone in service of their nation. So we must hold those 36 months of eligibility sacred, especially now that the benefit does not expire thanks to the Forever GI Bill. We must resist the urge to water it down by using it to pay for other benefits. So if an employment program that we're talking about today drains a veteran's GI Bill benefit, we must absolutely ensure that, number one, it results in an actual gainful employment and that the start of a career is meaningful and not a dead-end job. Number two, that it protects veterans from bad actors who take advantage of them. And number three, that it fulfills Congress's original intent of the 1944 GI Bill by helping to reintegrate service members through community building and substantive interaction. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you, Ranking Member Pappas. And I'll just be frank, as long as I'm the chairman of the subcommittee and Mike Bost is the chair of the whole committee, the GI Bill will not be touched, nor will the VA Home Loan Guarantee Program. It's interesting that you and I think are responsible for the two most successful programs the United States government has ever created, and I'm very proud to do that, so I got you. I'll now introduce our witnesses. Our first witness is Mr. Kenneth Smith, Executive Director at Education Services, Veterans Benefit Administration at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Accompanying Mr. Smith is Ms. Chanel, it's Chantil?
Correct, sir, Chantil.
Chantil Stovall, Acting Executive Director, Veterans Readiness and Employment Service, Veterans Benefits Administration at the Department of Veterans Affairs. I'd ask that the witnesses please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Very well, thank you. You may sit. Let the record reflect that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. Mr. Smith, you are now recognized for 5 minutes to deliver your testimony on behalf of the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Thank you. Chairman Van Orden, Ranking Member Pappas, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today to discuss how we can strengthen the veteran workforce. Joining me today is Chantil Stovall, Acting Executive Director of Veterans Readiness and Employment. We're honored to speak with you about how VA is supporting veterans as they transition from military to civilian life, especially through vocational rehabilitation, non-college degree training, and employment-focused programs. Transition support begins early. VA is committed to supporting every service member transitioning from the military to the civilian workforce as seamlessly as possible. Through our partnership with the Department of War, VA reaches approximately 200,000 service members each year through the Transition Assistance Program. TAP helps service members understand and access the full range of VA benefits, including education, employment, and healthcare. To further support transition, in 2019, VA launched the VA Solid Start program. Solid Start calls all eligible veterans, regardless of their character of discharge, at 3 key stages during the first year after separation from active duty. These calls are unscripted and focus on connecting veterans to the right resources at the right time. Since its launch, VASS has successfully connected with nearly 75% of eligible veterans, and these veterans are more likely to use their other VA services critical to securing meaningful employment. In addition to programs provided during service and transition, VA supports veterans towards their pathways to employment and career readiness, including the Veterans Readiness and Employment Program, benefits focused on education, and non-governmental collaboration and support. VR&E is the cornerstone of our employment support through individualized counseling, employment planning, and hands-on training for disabled veterans seeking to overcome service-connected disabilities and return to work. In FY 2024 alone, VR&E conducted nearly 20,000 one-on-one briefings with transitioning service members. The program also supports non-college pathways like apprenticeships, on-the-job training, and the non-paid work experience program, helping veterans gain real-world skills in fields like trucking, plumbing, and contracting. Personalized career planning and guidance counseling is available to discharging veterans and ensures that they make the most informed choice for their post-military education and employment path. PCPG helps veterans weigh options for college, apprenticeships, certificate programs, on-the-job training, and other high-demand sectors to maximize career outcomes and economic mobility. Non-college degree training is a growing priority, and VA is ready to assist. President Trump issued Executive Orders 14278 and 14269 to optimize and target federal programs in workforce development for high-paying skilled trades and maritime industries. In FY 2024, over 17,000 post-9/11 GI Bill beneficiaries began vocational or technical training, and nearly 1,800 entered on-the-job or apprenticeship programs. Benefits may be used for apprenticeships in OJT and high-paying skilled trades, including advanced manufacturing, welding automation, and industrial technology. Additionally, VA reimburses for licensing and certification exams, such as for commercial driving, home inspection, nursing assistance, and artificial intelligence. VA will continue to partner with Department of Labor and others to expand marketing to assist employers in recruiting veterans and ensure veterans are aware of the GI Bill opportunities, including apprenticeships and OJT programs. In fiscal year 2026, VA looks forward to the implementation of the new TEC program authorized by the Elizabeth Dole Act to connect veterans to high-tech training in fields like cybersecurity, data analytics, and cloud computing. During the pilot phase, over 16,000 veterans completed training and more than 8,000 secured meaningful employment within 6 months, earning an average starting salary of over $65,000. In closing, VA is committed to ensuring that every transitioning service member and veteran has access to the tools, training, and support they need to succeed in the civilian workforce, whether through college, vocational training, or direct employment pathways. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. The written statement of Mr. Smith will be entered into the hearing record. We're now going to proceed with questioning, and we'll remind our members that you'll each have 5 minutes for your questions. I now recognize Ranking Member Pappas for 5 minutes.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Smith, if I could turn to you and just get at the challenges that I presented in my opening remarks that veterans are facing right now with respect to Chapter 35 of benefits for veterans and their survivors. Can you talk and give us an update on these Chapter 35 issues? Back in August, we received information that this was an issue impacting about 750 individuals. Schools found out that that number was more like 75,000. So where does that number stand? And most importantly, when can these beneficiaries in districts like ours receive their overdue payments?
Thank you for the question. We look forward to addressing Chapter 35 questions in detail at the upcoming hearing, as well as in our staff briefing this Friday. We've continued to make progress through the 42 days of the shutdown and the 13 business days since then. And we will have a full set of statistics for you at that hearing or on Friday.
I'm not asking for complete detail right now, but just some assurance that VA is working on this issue and making progress. We're talking about thousands and thousands of veterans and their family members that have been impacted by this. They deserve an answer today. We've sent a couple letters on this topic, one dated October 3rd to the department, another dated November 13th. It's been crickets. We haven't heard anything back, and veterans deserve an answer. So can you give them a little bit more of an assurance how VA is working to address this?
You have my assurance that we've been working on it. Our field team of claims processors has been hard at work doing this through the shutdown. I apologize for the delays in these letters. It's my understanding that they're working their way through the VA concurrence process and will be released to you as soon as possible.
So where does that number stand? How many folks are waiting right now?
I can't provide you an answer on that right now.
Are you going to provide us with a briefing in advance of the hearing in 2 weeks that will give us a little bit more detail so that we can provide the oversight that veterans and their family members deserve?
Yes, sir.
Now, can you talk a little bit more about some of the other challenges the department has faced? And I'm just wondering, in terms of the lapse of funding, who's made decisions with respect to furloughing employees during the shutdown? Is it your understanding that the White House's guidance during the lapse in appropriations was that employees supporting government-funded programs, including mandatory programs, were to be essential and working during the shutdown?
Sir, our VA contingency plan was published on the website. I know decisions were made far above my level about furlough status, so I'd have to take that back for the department to respond to.
So who made those decisions in terms of the programs we're talking about today?
In terms of the overall VA posture, I can't say, sir. I'd have to get the department's opinion on that.
Well, we're going to need more detail there, too. Ms. Stovall, if I can turn to you about VR&E. The American Legion statement for the record highlighted concerns with staffing numbers, and that's a an ongoing challenge we've discussed in this subcommittee quite frequently. So what's the current counselor to veteran ratio?
Currently, the ratio is 1 to 200.
Okay, and how many counselor job openings do you have across the country? And can you just assess whether counselors are keeping up with that workload, knowing that that ratio is far above where the target is?
Yeah, we have 1,310 positions allocated for our VRC, VRSs, and we have currently 1,010 onboarded. And to the second part of your question, so we have implemented our national case assignment strategy to help with those high case loads at some of the stations that have lower capacity to complete some of that work. We're also implementing overtime for our VRCs on a voluntary basis, and we're also implementing help teams to complete orientations to get veterans into entitlement decisions, see counselors for entitlement decisions more quickly.
Yeah, and how have these issues impacted the veteran experience? What are their wait times like for VR&E?
So the current overall wait time is 81 days. So prior to the shutdown, we were seeing a decline from 54 days down to 50 days, and now we're currently at 81 days. Again, we are using those help teams to help us make sure that we can get veterans seen and entitlement decisions and plans written so that they are able to start school in January.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your attention to those matters, and I yield back.
The ranking member yields back. The chair now recognizes Mr. Barr from the great state of Michigan for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the panel. Thank you both for being here today. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for the shout out on the Transport Jobs Act. We're hopeful that that will help kind of bridge the gap between members leaving military service and finding employment in critical sectors of the economy where we certainly have a shortage taking place. And you know, this really struck a chord with me recently as we saw the tragic case out in California where an illegal CDL operator, illegal immigrant in the country, performed an illegal maneuver, left to, you know, to the fatalities of Americans that were here. And to me, I'm thinking about this, I'm like, why are we operating a system where it is benefiting people operating illegally when we could be employing veterans who have trained and are qualified in these ways, but may not have the appropriate civilian licensing that's necessary? They've driven trucks, they've done supply chain jobs in their military capacity, but then they don't have the reciprocity with civilian licensing to get that appropriate job and opportunity back home. One of the original reasons, the very first reason I was motivated to run for office a decade ago, I came home from the Army and I saw that a whole host of my battle buddies that I had served with were really struggling to find opportunities in Michigan at the time. And we were leading the country. We were the second overall state in the nation for veteran unemployment rate. This is back in, you know, the mid-2000, 2015 timeframe. And Michigan was coming out of this great recession at the time, and we were hit predominantly hard in that effect. And veterans always seem to suffer the worst brunt of economic downturns. And having a robust ability for transitioning veterans to come home is really important because I think it really provides that stability, that purpose, and that fundamental dignity that comes with being someone who is transitioning back home and finding that next mission in life. So the work that we do on this committee is really important in that effort to really establish a framework for how we're going to welcome people back home and provide them that self-sufficient dignity that they deserve. I had a few questions for you about some of the shifts that we've seen within the economy away from maybe some of the traditional four-year degree programs and into other skilled trade or other skilled professions and things like that. And I'm curious if you can give us any insight why we've still seen an overwhelming preponderance of people going into the traditional four-year degree fields and less inclined to go into the trade opportunities that may be a better fit for them based on their skills that they've acquired in the military.
Thank you for the question, sir. And I wish I had a good answer for you. But honestly, we do not have a survey mechanism to ask veterans why they choose the path that they choose. That would certainly be, you know, something that we.
Do you think it has anything to do with the reimbursement rates and what they can qualify for under a 4-year program versus a trade opportunity, the apprenticeship programs, and some of the I guess, reimbursement and other value ability of some of these programs that are available to them?
It could be. There are a number of instances where if you look at a 4-year, what we pay for a 4-year college degree, the total package value would be much higher than for a non-college degree or an apprenticeship program.
Okay. And then I know I actually was in Michigan a few weeks ago in my district and met with the man who runs this group, Workshops for Warriors. I think he's actually testified in front of this subcommittee last Congress. And he told me that there is a cap. He runs a trade program, a skilled trade apprenticeship type program that gives certification to veterans, things like that. I think he told me there's a cap for an institution of how many of their students can receive GI Bill and other veteran benefits. Is that true, that there's a limitation there for institutions?
There is a statutory requirement for 85%. It's an 85-15 rule, up to 85% supportable through government programs.
Is there a waiver available for that, or would that need to be provided in law?
Yes, and I'm sorry, I said that backwards. 85% non-funded, 15% funded. We can give a waiver to allow someone to exceed 35% as well. So that waiver opportunity is available.
Thank you. Appreciate it. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back with 10 seconds to go.
The gentleman yields. The chair now recognizes Mr. Kennedy from great state of New York.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here, your testimony. The GI Bill is a sacred promise that helps veterans pursue education, transition into civilian life, and provide for their families, including the survivors and children of those who have sacrificed everything. Our responsibility on this committee is to ensure that that promise remains strong. A recent negotiated rule from the Department of Education on loan limits for certain advanced graduate degrees has raised serious concerns, especially for veterans pursuing fields like nursing, education, physical and occupational therapy, social work, and many other advanced degrees in healthcare, particularly, but not exclusively. And these are students and veterans who rely on both GI benefits and federal loans to cover the full costs of their programs. We need answers about delays as well on Chapter 35 benefits for survivors and dependents. The VA has not responded to congressional inquiries, and recent staffing cuts affecting payment processing is certainly troubling. And these issues require immediate attention. And the delay is beyond concerning. It's infuriating, quite frankly. Mr. Smith, countless Americans, including future nurses, therapists, and other essential healthcare providers, are worried they may no longer be able to complete their graduate professional degree programs under the Department of Education's rule that restricts access to federal loans for certain healthcare professions. Veterans relying on GI Bill benefits deserve immediate clarity. Is it your understanding that GI Bill coverage for professional degree programs like nursing, physical and occupational therapy, and others will remain entirely separate from and completely unaffected by the Department of Education's draft rule?
Thank you for the question, sir. I'm unaware of the details of the Department of Education's draft rule, but we do pay benefits up to the annual max amount set by Congress for private schools. For public schools, there is no limit, and as well, the Yellow Ribbon Program allows veterans to, allows schools to match 50% to exceed that, the max cap that is set each year.
The rule that was passed in the Big Ugly Bill, it cuts the ability for a student in half to achieve their federal loan need. My question is very simple. Will that impact our veterans who also rely on the GI Bill?
We will continue to administer GI Bill payments just as we always have. I can imagine a deference to the Department of Education on that.
Okay, so you don't know the answer?
I do not know.
Okay, well, unfortunately, that doesn't answer my question. Obviously, veterans, including those pursuing these advanced degrees in healthcare, need clear guidance and assurances. Many are still going to require federal loans even after using their GI Bill benefits. And if those loans are restricted under this rule, it's going to impede their ability to afford their education. Hence, they're not going to go into these healthcare roles where the need for nursing by 2033, we're told from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we need to be hiring 200,000 nurses a year to achieve where we need to be. So we're already behind the 8 ball, and we know our veterans make great nurses and healthcare practitioners across the board. So I'm curious how the VA is assessing the impact on these VA benefits. And, you know, how are our returning veterans that are trying to go into these fields, how are they going to be impacted?
The statute allows us to pay 36 months of benefits in under the post 9/11 GI Bill program. We will continue to deliver benefits to include both tuition and fees, books and supplies, as well as the monthly housing allowance to all veterans who are in the program.
I think this is essential that the VA consider moving forward, is how to prevent veterans who have served our nation from being denied access or being pushed out of the field that they would like to go into, especially with such a great need for healthcare practitioners in this country. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. The chair now recognizes Representative King Hines from the beautiful Northern Mariana Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to the witnesses for the opportunity to have a conversation this morning. You know, jobs, right? We're here because we want to talk about how we get these vets employed. And one of the things that I always hear back home that makes me laugh but makes me kind of sad is when I see certain vets, they're like, thank you for your service, but where's the service for my service, right? Because I think there are gaps in terms of some of these programs that they're entitled to that's not translating into them after, you know, leaving service to get into a career where some of these benefits that are currently provided for is not leading to that path. I also sit in the Small Business Committee, and one of the conversations that we had last week with some of the panelists is you know, just the shortage of workers in certain industries like manufacturing, right? And one of the panelists said something that really struck me, which was, you know, it shouldn't be education for all, but careers for all, because what we're seeing as a trend across the country is that there's all these jobs that are just very hard to fill because we don't have the skilled labor. And so, I'm listening to the conversation that we're having about the GI Bill and, you know, Rep. Barrett's question with regards to the amount of benefits that are given for four-year degree programs versus these technical trade schools types of programs that are available. And obviously, folks are going to be incentivized to pursue the four-year route, right, if you're going to get more money. And so how do we look at that gap and create an opportunity where trade school education has the same value as a four-year degree within the system? And it's an open-ended question to both of you.
Thank you for the question. I think we're certainly willing to help Congress, and we can meet with you as well as with employers and other stakeholders to have that conversation about the policy issues and how to resolve those through new statute.
Did you want to chime in, Ms. Stovall?
So I would say in my short 4 months that I've been in this position, it has been rather exploratory. And so I do know that we have some areas where we can focus more on employment, and that is one of the areas that I'm looking to improve. Currently, we do have 96% of our participants that are following our employment through long-term services track, and only about 2.5% that are in our rapid access track, which is the track that we use for veterans that have skills and may just need resume development and job development services to help them. So I am looking into that to see what is driving that high usage rate of our employment through long-term services track, to see how we can improve and leverage participation of our other tracks that may be more appropriate. We do know that veterans come out of the military with multiple skill sets, and so we need to figure out what we need to do to make sure that we are utilizing them when we're looking at how we can return them to the employment market.
Do you see some sort of perhaps an accrediting system as something that would be beneficial, so that when, folks are in the military who already develop a certain skill, right, when they come out, some sort of an accrediting body can now take whatever that skill level is, so that they're not now having to replicate the same training that they've already had and that they've already been doing, but could actually have physical paperwork to say, I'm qualified, I'm certified, I have the credentials?
Thank you for the question. I do believe that it is, for VR&E, I think it is important for us to help them identify how they are able to sell themselves, and when they're talking to employers.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The chair now recognizes Ms. Ramirez from the great state of Illinois.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Ranking Member, for having us in this hearing today. And I want to thank both of our witnesses who are joining us today. It's been a couple months since this subcommittee met, and a lot has happened in those 5 months. So I want to go ahead and start, since I'm not sure when we'll have another committee hearing, to talk a little bit about the effects of the last 5 months. But really, I want to talk about the impact that the government shutdown had on veterans. And Mr. Smith, I want to go ahead and start with you. Mr. Smith, for the record, did the government shutdown negatively affect veterans, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, and just for the record, I appreciate you answering honestly here. 1.2 million veterans were at risk of losing SNAP benefits, as you know, and more than 75,000 veterans and their family members had their tuition and housing payments delayed after the software problem stopped the automated delivery of their benefits. We also know that 56 VA regional benefit offices were closed to the public, and more than 16,000 service members preparing to leave the military were unable to receive the VA transition briefings. So, Mr. Smith, recognizing that you saw the impact, did the government furlough any veteran employees at the VA, yes or no?
Did we furlough?
Did you furlough any veteran employees at the Veteran Affairs Department?
I'm sure we did.
Yeah, you did. According to the VA press release, 37,000 VA employees were furloughed, and estimates that are about 120,000 veterans that work for the VA also were impacted. So it's likely that many veterans were furloughed. Mr. Smith, did the government shutdown have any negative impact on veterans trying to access educational benefits like the GI Bill hotline or the VR&E counseling case management? Yes or no?
The education call center was closed during the shutdown.
So it was impacted. Okay, so just for the record, I just want to make sure we note this, since we have not met for the last 5 months, and this shutdown by the majority really had an impact. I want to make sure I put this on the record. More than 900,000 veterans were unable to get assistance from the GI Bill hotline. More than 100,000 enrolled veterans did not get their veteran readiness and employment program counseling or case management services. And by October 30th, there was a backlog of new applicants for the program of more than 61,988 applications. I I want to make sure I put that on the record. I also want to state that I was extremely frustrated that my staff were working around the clock every single day, and they were unable to connect with a congressional liaison when they were attempting to advocate on behalf of the veterans that I represent. The secretary directed leaders and staff within the VA to use congressionally appropriated funds to send these politically charged messages to veterans and congressional staff about the shutdown, which I think is a clear violation of the Hatch Act, instead of trying to work with us to try to help them. So I want to make sure that I note this, because the shutdown may have ended, but the impact is still there. With that, the last minute and a half I have, I want to talk a little bit more about workforce opportunities here. Access to a quality education is one of the promises we made to veterans, and we must deliver. The vet tech is now drowning on GI Bill benefits, yet VA's own data shows that the vet tech's employment rate is only at 49% within the 180 days of program completion. So, Mr. Smith, when VA's own data shows that the vet tech fails to lead to employment for more than half of participating veterans, isn't restoring their GI Bill benefits essential so veterans are not stuck paying the price when their training fails to yield gainful employment?
Thank you for the question. Based on the statute and design of the vet tech program authorized by the Elizabeth Dole Act, if there is no remaining entitlement, the veteran is allowed to train without cost. So they are allowed to enroll and pursue the vet tech program, and then they are charged entitlement if they do have remaining entitlement.
And yet, half of the participating veterans are not getting their restorated GI Bill benefits. So I just want to make sure I note that, because the purpose is to be able to help them get gainful employment. And that's why, I think some of us have been working the last few years. I have 10 seconds left, Chairman. And I worked on the Student Veteran Benefit Restoration Act, and I'm going to be reintroducing it. And it'll be really important for us to work bipartisan the way we did before to make sure this bill finally passes. With that, I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back. The chair now recognizes my great friend, Mr. Juan Ciscomani from the state of Arizona.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman. And thank you all for the witnesses here for being here as well to testify about this important topic. As our country continues to face shortages in key industries like electrical work, trucking, manufacturing, and energy, this committee must ensure that veterans are made aware of every pathway to a meaningful career. In a recent survey, more than 70% of veteran readiness employment participants of the VR&E enter into an undergraduate program, where about 3.5% entered into a vocational or technical program, and participation rates for on-the-job training remain especially low. Given the robust wages and impressive employment outcomes associated with these programs, it's clear that significant improvements in outreach are needed. My bill, H.R. 1458, the Veteran Education and Technical Skills Opportunity Act, the VETS Act, Opportunity Act, expands access to vocational and technical training by extending educational benefits in the post-9/11 GI Bill to include both in-person and hybrid versions of skilled trade training programs in order to address skilled trade labor shortages. Today's hearing is an opportunity to learn how the VA is refocusing on all educational pathways, degrees and non-degrees, and the best ways we can assist veterans in obtaining high-paying jobs and strengthen the American workforce and the shortages associated with that. So I want to start off with a question here regarding the Dole Act. Now, Mr. Smith, this is for you. The Dole Act was signed into law last January, and it included improvements to the vet tech program that is very key to the issues that we're talking about here. Now, the VA, now it says that it's going to implement the vet tech program into the first quarter of 2026. That's well over a year after this was signed into law. This is, quite frankly, unacceptable. I'm not sure why it's taking so long, especially given that Congress paid for the provisions to this almost immediately. I'm also on the Appropriations Committee, so I know that well. We had the legislation and we had the appropriated funds for that as well. So why has it taken this long? And why can we implement it today?
Sir, thank you for the question. We've been working to build a payment or a claims processing and payment system to support the vet tech program. Because of the changes to the underlying program, the requirements changed, and we needed to make changes to our claims processing tool. Secondly, our new payment processing system needs to be updated so that it can also process and pay those. We're looking to do that in third quarter of this year, be done in third quarter of this year, so that we can field that program.
Third quarter of this year?
Yes, 26.
Okay, of next year then, you're talking about.
We're in fiscal year 26, I'm sorry.
Okay, on the fiscal year, gotcha. Well, there's got to be a way to be able to speed this up. I mean, the funds are there, the legislation was passed. This has a direct impact on where we want to go here with workforce, especially when we talk about the trades and so on. So I'm hoping to maybe get a little more concrete timeline or what's in the way of this, but I do want to add some friendly pressure here, because this is time is of the essence here. And again, it'll be over a year by the time that your stated goal of quarter one gets implemented. So hopefully we can get on that pretty quickly. I would appreciate an update on that when you have a more specific timeline.
Will do.
Thank you. Now, let me move on to another question. I can't see my time here, Mr. Chairman. 1 minute. Oh, okay. Well, I don't have a lot of time. But I'll move to Ms. Stovall, if we can do that. The VR&E benefit report highlights that, like I said, only 3.5% of veterans in the program pursue vocational or technical training, and just about 0.4% participate in apprenticeships. What do you believe is driving such low participation in the career building pathway, specifically on this one, and what strategies can be implementing to increase awareness and enrollment in those programs?
That is one of the areas that I am looking into, sir, to determine, what is driving the high participation rates in training programs. And what I have tasked my staff with is looking at what are our top four-year degree programs and how can we match those with apprenticeships and OJTs that currently exist that may be a better route to help our veterans enter employment more quickly.
I agree, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I would say that, I think we, at least in Arizona or in Tucson, we may need not as many more attorneys, but we need more on the trades. We're missing that for sure. So if we can.
The gentleman's time
no
is
offense to
expired.
any of the attorneys in the room here, Mr. Chairman.
Not me.
Okay, no, I'm not looking at you. I'm looking past you.
Okay.
No, okay,
We're
all right,
good.
Good.
Is it
Thank you all.
Kennedy, maybe? I don't know. The gentleman's time has expired. The chair now recognizes Mr. McGarvey from the great state of Kentucky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This hearing's pretty simple. We want to make sure that our veterans, our men and women who put on the uniform, can build a good life and a good career after they transition away from the military. We know that there's some successful programs. The GI Bill's done a great job, but not all veterans need a four-year degree. In fact, there's a lot of programs out there that can help, but the fact is, veterans aren't using these non-degree options. We got to build some pathways, and this is I hate using government speak. Let's not talk about pathways. Veterans need jobs, and we got to make sure that they have what they need to get jobs. So we have some things out there. SkillBridge. These are registered apprenticeships, union training programs, industry partnerships. We know how this can work. And our collective responsibility, both on this committee and at the VA, is to make sure that our veterans aren't burning through their benefits only to be left with nothing really to show for it at the end. So we need accountability. We got to have some clarity. We got to have some employer partnerships that deliver results for our veterans. And we got to make sure that our veterans who've already shown the initiative to put on that uniform, to go into the service, can take the skills they have there and use them in the civilian world to get a good job and have a good life for their families. So I look at this statistic. I'm gonna follow up on what Mr. Siscomani said a minute ago. Fewer than 20% of their veterans right now use the GI Bill for non-degree options. Only 20%. Your testimony today has stated this may be due to a lack of wider awareness. Again, not using government speak. Let's talk about this in a real way. What percentage of our veterans do you think should be using their GI Bill for non-degree options? And what's the VA doing to make sure they know about these options and where they exist?
I'll ask Ms. Stovall to respond in a second, but first let me say, I think there is an awareness problem. Both VA needs to be communicating with employers, partnering with employers to overcome that apprehension behind, entering into a formal arrangement where they will be submitting enrollments and other documentation to VA. Secondly, while we address this in PCPG, all of the pathways for education benefits, I think that we need to do a better job of other marketing around the idea of what opportunities are available for all of these different avenues. We are limited in some degree based on the statute. We deliver the benefit, we don't advise, and that's where Ms. Stovall's team comes in. So I'll ask her to add just a little bit to that.
So under VR&E, the way that the statute is written, a veteran is able to identify a vocational goal, and based on that vocational goal would receive the training, whether that's a degree, a diploma, or certification. They receive the training that's recognized for entry into that field. And so based on comprehensive assessments, the VRC, or Vocational Rehabilitation Counselor, would work with them to determine what the most appropriate goal would be to get them to suitable employment.
But 20% right now are using the GI Bill for non-degree options. Do you think that number should be higher or lower?
I would defer that to Mr. Smith.
I don't have an opinion. I don't know what the right number should be.
Okay. Right now, it says that VR&E employment outcomes are at 74% for program completers. But we've learned that counselor shortages and long wait times are part of this problem. So right now, VR&E employment outcomes are at 74%. It needs to be higher, right? And we've heard about counselor shortages and long wait times. How are we fixing this problem to make sure that veterans don't have to wait months just to start?
Thank you for the question. So we are looking at increasing, well, there's a couple things we're doing as far as our transformation efforts to make sure that we can render timely services. We have implemented a new case assignment system. We have, actually, I forgot to mention it earlier, but we do have 91 FTE that we will be onboarding this month to help with fill those vacancies. And we're also continuing to use some of our help teams to assist with backlogs.
We're out of time. I have more thing. I do want to point out, Mr. Chairman, graduation rates look okay, but only half of graduates land meaningful employment within 180 days. That's 6 months without a paycheck, so we got to do better.
Roger that. Gentleman yields back. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes. Part of this issue is back in the 1970s, for some reason, everybody thought that every single American needed to go to a 4-year college. And they treated the rest of us that decided to join the military at 18 like we're less people. And that is not the case. The trades are where it's at. And if you want to work with your hands, because that's how America is built. America's not built because somebody has a degree in 13th century French poetry. It's because a dude went to one of these union shops and became a carpenter. So let's just remember that. And these numbers should be higher. The goal is employment. It's not a piece of paper on a wall. Let's always remember that. A lot of these things, I think, my colleagues are concerned about. I am too, and I think we need to look at making sure that our TAP program addresses this more, that we educate our folks getting out of the military about the trades, show them that, you can make an exceptionally good living by being a tradesman. I went, it was last year, I was driving by, doing doors and stuff when I was running for office, a year and a half ago, I guess. And there was this dude there, he had this great house and this bitchin' boat and a truck and all this stuff. And I stopped, I asked him what he did for a living. He said he's a lineman. And his wife went to a tech school and she was an x-ray tech. So you can live a very, very high quality life by working with your hands. And I just need to make sure that everybody understands that. Mr. Smith, DOL Vets is not here today. And we talked about that earlier. I think it's because of the intransigence of the Senate. So we need to get those people in here. Can you tell me any redundancies between you and DOL Vets, between the Department of Veterans Affairs and the DOL Vets?
I don't believe there's any redundancy. We certainly partner with DOL vets, and we leverage their registration process for apprenticeships, and we then accept them. We deem them as approved. The state
Mr. Smith, you guys have similar workforce programs, homeless programs. There are a lot of redundancies, and we see these all the time. Can you tell me, like, all these processing things that we have going on, it just seems like it's taking a long time. Do you guys use any type of innovative technologies to accelerate the process of registering? So we've got a shortage of our counselors. What type of automated processes are in place to help speed along all of these functions?
In education, we are very interested in automation. Right now, we are automating more than 50% of our claims to speed benefits to people. Mostly, or benefits are actually delivered in less than 15 minutes, so you can apply for a certificate of eligibility and, in a matter of minutes, know that you're eligible to use your benefits for any number of programs.
But then it takes, what, 81 days, ma'am, to get rolling, is that right?
81 days in reference to
Didn't you say it takes 81 days to get these things done for
wait
VR&E?
time.
The wait time.
the wait time, correct?
So if it can be automated in 15 minutes, Mr. Smith, why does it take 81 days for completion?
So that's on the education side, to provide an entitlement determination for the GI Bill.
Okay.
Vocational rehabilitation has a different process, that requires some additional work on the front end.
Well, so I used VR&E, and I don't understand. I mean, you sit down and you fill out this battery of questions, and then you talk to somebody. I don't know why that takes 81 days. I mean, I simply don't understand that.
So we have, with our new case management system, Readiness and Employment System, or RES, we have been able to automate the eligibility process.
Yeah.
And so with that has reduced the wait time for a veteran to be seen by a case manager for an entitlement decision.
Yeah. We got a bill through the House that lowered the education requirement for these counselors. Used to have a master's degree for this, but I do not mean to disparage the folks that are doing this job, but it simply is not that complicated. And more automation, more better. So we just have to get over this institutional inertia that is the VA and focus on the veterans. And I know that you guys are doing that pretty well. So with that, I yield back, and we will with that, I yield back, and we'll be dismissing this panel. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it greatly, and we'll take a short break while we impanel the next group.
That means that the microphone is live only.
Our second panel committee will come to order. On our second panel, we're going to hear from the following witnesses. Our first witness is Mr. Greg Ham, Vice President of Field and Government Recruiting at Werner Enterprises, testifying on behalf of the American Trucking Association. Our next witness is Gary LaBarbera, Jr., there you are, business agent, Teamsters Local 282, and Helmets to Hard Hats Trade Advisor, testifying on behalf of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. I want to thank First Sergeant LaBarbera for his service. He just retired. First shirt, good job. Semper Fi, we just had our 250th birthday, kind of a big deal. Hope you had a good time. Woke up with a headache, probably. Our third witness is Mr. Jerome A. Grant, Chief Executive Officer at Universal Technical Institute. And our fourth witness is from the great state of Wisconsin, Mr. Vang. It's wonderful to see you. Human Resources Manager at ORC Industries. I want to thank Mr. Vang for being here and representing my home state. It's great to see you, sir. Our final witness is Mr. Dave Bostic, is Service Development Manager, Aftermarket and Customer Support for Region 4, testifying on behalf of Deere and Company. I'd like all the witnesses to stand and raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Very well, you may be seated. Let the record reflect that all witnesses have answered in the affirmative. Mr. Ham, you are now recognized for 5 minutes to deliver your testimony.
Well, thank you, Chairman Van Orden, Ranking Member Pappas, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for inviting me to testify on behalf of the American Trucking Associations and Werner Enterprises. My name is Greg Ham. I'm the Vice President of Field and Government Recruiting at Werner Enterprises. And as a proud U.S. Army veteran, I understand both personally and professionally the challenges that come with transition into the civilian role. The Army transformed my life by giving me the discipline to do things the right way, even when no one is watching. The grit to push through when things get hard, and the commitment to finish what I start, and a sense of honor that comes from being part of something bigger than myself. These are the same qualities that I see in veterans embarking on civilian careers. It's why I'm devoted to helping find them opportunities in the trucking industry. At Werner, we take pride in being one of the nation's largest and most dedicated employers of veterans and military families. Our average driver earns over $75,000 a year, and many earn well into the six figures. Approximately 20%, or 1 in 5, of our 13,000 associates are military connected, and our goal is to reach 25%, or 1 in 4. Our team of veteran recruiters has walked the same path as the men and women that we serve. Veterans entering Werner can pursue careers ranging from professional drivers to technicians to safety roles, operations, logistics management. We extend educational support, tuition assistance, and military community resource groups to ensure that veterans and spouses have the tools they need to thrive. Werner's holistic approach to career development has produced countless success stories. One example is Sergeant Eric Macedo, who served over 6 years in the Army as a mechanic. And despite his extensive experience maintaining complex equipment and leading soldiers, he struggled to translate his skills into the civilian career. By using his GI Bill benefits to enroll in Werner's registered apprenticeship program, he earned a CDL, quickly advanced at our company, and today he serves as a road team captain and as a mentor. Eric frequently tells us that the structure and the community that he rediscovered at Werner restored his sense of purpose that he felt in the service. Eric's story underscores what is possible when policymakers and employers work hand in hand. The federal government can help more veterans like Eric by increasing funding for the CMV Operator Safety Training Grant Program, SIMVOST, which will expand access to quality CDL programs. Passing Chairman Van Orden's Warriors to Workforce Act to ease the housing burden on veterans undergoing job training. Passing the Veterans Transition to Trucking Act to reduce the VA's red tape on apprenticeship programs. And passing the Transport Jobs Act to make it easier for veterans and their spouses to find jobs in the supply chain. Each year, approximately 200,000 service members separate from the U.S. Armed Forces. In trucking and across the country, the benefit of hiring veterans are clear. The work ethic, leadership, adaptability, teamwork, high moral standard and character, and the ability to operate under pressure. Veterans bring the values that make the workplace and the supply chain stronger. Hiring them is not charity. This is smart business. Ranking Member Pappas and Chairman Van Orden demonstrated their commitment to expanding meaningful career pathways for those who have served by spearheading the passage of the Veteran Improvement Commercial Driver's License Act last year. And I'm confident that this subcommittee will build on that progress to empower veterans and their families and employers to broaden our economy in the months ahead. I appreciate the opportunity to join you here today, and I hope to contribute constructively to your efforts to strengthen America's veteran workforce. I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you very much.
The gentleman yields. Mr. Hamm, Mr. Vang, I did not recognize your service, but you're in the Army, so I'm not supposed to. Just throwing that out there. Hey. Sorry, that was for you, for sure, for certain. I now recognize Mr. LaBarbera Jr. to deliver his opening statement.
Thank you. Chairman Van Orden, Ranking Member Pappas, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today on these critical issues. My name is Gary LaBarbera Jr., and I currently serve as a business agent for Teamsters Local 282 in New York City, as well as the Teamsters Trade Advisor to Helmets to Hard Hats, working to create employment opportunities for veterans working as Teamsters in the building construction trades. I retired from the Marine Corps Reserves in 2023 as a Company First Sergeant, Company A 125, following 2 deployments for OIF and 1 for OEF. My experience is also one of a successful transition from military service to civilian union employment. Following my first deployment, I obtained my commercial driver's license and began driving a truck while serving in reserve status. Following my second deployment, I began my career as a Teamster in Local 282, driving trucks in the heavy construction industry in New York City. In total, the Teamsters represent 1.3 million members, including tens of thousands of veterans, currently serving reservists and military spouses, and we appreciate the subcommittee's attention to this issue. We appreciate the committee's long-standing bipartisan efforts to improve the lives of veterans and to ensure that when they transition, they can access careers that allow them to take care of themselves and their families. It is my hope that from today's hearing, that the takeaway I can leave you with is the role that the Teamsters have and continue to play in securing employment for veterans like me, thousands of current members, and future transitioning veterans. As I mentioned, I am the Teamsters representative to the Helmets to Hard Hats program, which provides opportunities within registered apprenticeship programs and careers in the unionized building trades, and has connected nearly 55,000 veterans to good-paying careers since 2003, 13,000 of which over the past 5 years. We're able to achieve this through many partnerships with trade unions, employers, Department of Labor, and many others. I have worked with countless veterans, connecting them to locals, training centers, and employers, affording them opportunities to begin well-paid careers as Teamsters in the construction industry. I have also had many discussions with our locals and training centers who are committed to aiding our nation's veterans and seek them out while looking to grow their workforce. I view this program to be a model of how labor can play an essential role in securing good jobs and careers for veterans. The Teamsters' efforts in this area have been significant and wide-reaching. Over the years, our airline division membership realized that we were failing to transition military aircraft mechanics into civilian service. While we counted many veterans among the Teamster-represented pilots, we didn't see this among the nearly 10,000 aircraft mechanics we represent, largely at United Airlines. We led an effort to streamline the process in the FAA reauthorization bill, which the Federal Aviation Administration is currently working to complete. We thank Committee Chairman Bose for his leadership in securing that language. Trucking has long been a strong source of employment for veterans, but also an industry where opportunity presents itself to work with Congress. For example, we thank Subcommittee Chairman Van Orden, Ranking Member Pappas, and other members of the committee for their leadership on the Veteran Improvement Commercial Driver License Act, which was signed into law last year and cut unnecessary red tape for CDL training. Uniquely, Teamster locals across the country also operate our own free or no-cost CDL training programs, which frequently work with transitioning veterans. Our programs graduate highly skilled drivers with pathways to stable and well-paid employment. The Teamsters are very interested in expanding our programs and searching for ways to do so in conjunction with Congress. For example, through a large expansion of the Department of Transportation's Commercial Motor Vehicle Operator Safety Training, CMVOST, competitive grant program. Last year, the program received less than $4 million in total. By increasing the funding for this program substantially, Teamster locals can secure these available funds to expand existing programs, increasing offerings, and open new programs where they currently do not exist. I should also note that the program is a perfect fit for today's discussion. The law already creates preference for programs which serve veterans, a requirement we strongly support. We are prioritizing expansion of CMVOST in ongoing surface transportation reauthorization discussions and hope for your support as negotiations on that bill continue. Finally, we know that members of this subcommittee and the full committee have put forth numerous proposals on veteran employment and will continue to do so. The Teamsters are fully committed to working with all members on this shared goal, and it is our hope we can both work with you on advancing those priorities and that in shaping proposals, programs, and new initiatives that you consider the ability of the Teamsters to be a partner in those efforts. We are proud to represent the greatest range of industries and occupations of any labor organization in this country and have a demonstrated track record of commitment to our nation's veterans. I appreciate the opportunity to testify before you today and look forward to any questions you may have.
Thank you for starting. Both your and Mr. Ham's record, or excuse me, written testimony will be entered into the hearing record. The chair now recognizes Mr. Grant for 5 minutes.
Chairman Van Orden, ranking members of Pappas, members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. It's an honor to speak with you about something that's core to our work and essential to our nation's future, creating strong, reliable, high-wage career pathways for America's veterans. My name's Jerome Grant, and I serve as CEO of Universal Technical Institute, which includes UTI and Concord Career Colleges. Across our 32 campuses, we focus entirely on hands-on, career-focused education in fields that keep this country running: automotive, diesel technology, aviation, welding, electrical, and energy trades. And on the Concord side, nursing. dental professions, respiratory therapy, surgical technology, and other critical healthcare fields. Last year, we educated more than 3,300 veterans and military-affiliated students. Veterans are not a subset of our population. They are central to our mission. They bring discipline, maturity, problem-solving, and leadership that elevate every classroom they're in. At UTI in Concord, we've built a support system around them, dedicated admissions, financial aid counselors, trained on VA benefits, military scholarships, salute to service tuition reductions, career coaching, and veteran recognition ceremonies. Our measure of success is straightforward. 4 out of 5 of UTI's graduates are employed in their field of study within a year. Our success is measured across the full employment cycle. We support graduates for life with placement assistance and continuing education that's complementary because, much like the military, they carry our name long after they leave ranks. And with new campuses opening, this impact will continue to grow. One of the most powerful examples of what works is our partnership with the Department of Defense through SkillBridge. UTI operates 3 on-base programs at Fort Bliss, Fort Bragg, and Camp Pendleton. Out of the more than 3,500 SkillBridge organizations nationwide, fewer than 200 operate on bases. Our SkillBridge programs offer free on-base housing for service members, guardsmen, and reservists coming from other installations. It also is open to dependents because we support the whole military family, not just a service member. We're honored to be among them. We hope to see the base commands embrace these important transition opportunities for service members. These programs cost the service members nothing. Over just 12 to 16 weeks, participants complete automotive and diesel technician training that leads to civilian jobs with starting wages above $50,000. There's no gap between leaving the military and entering the workforce. It is immediate, with life-changing impact, and we should be doing more of it. We also work closely with the USO and U.S. Chamber of Commerce Hiring Our Heroes program to deliver transition workshops, career preparation, and direct connections to employers. In every industry we serve, whether it's the skilled trades or healthcare, the message from employers is the same: we need more talent. And veterans are an ideal fit for these skilled collared careers that value discipline, teamwork, and technical ability. We're proud to be recognized as a military-friendly school and veterans-friendly institution, but what really matters is not the designation, it's outcomes. Our responsibility is ensuring veterans leave us with strong credentials and even stronger careers. As for the opportunity to create more visibility into high-paying jobs and skilled trades, I could not agree more with what Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford, said just a couple weeks ago. The skill gap in the United States is no longer a distant warning. It's a present-day crisis. When companies like Ford have 5,000 high-wage technical jobs sitting unfilled, it tells us one thing: our country must dramatically expand the training pipeline for skilled technical careers that keep America moving, and veterans are often well-suited for these skilled trade jobs. At Universal Technical Institute and Concord Career Colleges, we're focused every day on solving this problem. Across our nationwide campuses, UTI trains students in automotive, diesel, EV hybrid systems, welding, aviation maintenance, electrical, and energy technology, the very roles Ford and the entire transportation and mobility sectors urgently need. As part of UTI's success is our industry-leading partnerships, and manufacturers allow us to offer both industry and company-specific training sought by our employers. We have manufacturer-specific advanced training programs with Ford, General Motors, Daimler Trucks, Cummins Engines, and several other incredible manufacturers. We are eager to expand these partnerships, leading manufacturers to meet the needs of the moment. That includes scaling EV and next-generation propulsion training, creating more OEM-aligned curriculum, and growing career pathways, opening additional on-base programs, and working together to recruit more veterans, career changers, and young adults to these skilled collared careers. America cannot remain competitive without a strong technical workforce. UTI is ready to grow, innovate, and partner even more.
Gentleman's time has expired. Sir, your written testimony will be entered into the record. The chair now recognizes Mr. Bostic for 5 minutes.
Chairman Van Orden, Ranking Member Pappas, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is David Bostic, and I'm here on behalf of John Deere to share information about an issue that affects thousands of transitioning service members every year, which is the successful reintegration into the civilian workforce. As you know, our nation's veterans bring unmatched skills and resilience to their communities. Yet despite these strengths, many face significant challenges transitioning from military service. This issue hits me close to home. In 1997, fresh out of high school, I started work as a technician at a John Deere dealership in Lexington, Illinois. Except for the years spent in college and in the Marine Corps, I've spent my career supporting John Deere customers. First with a wrench in my hand, and then in every single corporate role I've held John Deere for the past 18 years. John Deere manufactures equipment and technology that enables our customers to produce the food, fiber, fuel, and infrastructure that supports a growing global population. To accomplish this, we employ over 30,000 employees across 16 U.S. states, including 250 employees in Chairman Van Orden's district. But we don't do this alone. John Deere equipment is sold and serviced by a network of independently owned dealers like United Ag and Turf and James R. Rosenkrantz and Sons in Congressman Pappas's district. These are small businesses embedded in thousands of communities across the United States that employ an additional 50,000 people. Currently, these dealerships face a critical shortage of skilled workers, especially equipment technicians. John Deere has always been a staunch supporter of this country's military and its veterans over the past several years. And over the past several years, we've taken greater strides to advocate and support for veterans. In 2019, a team of fellow veterans and I launched John Deere's military hiring program. It was designed to help connect dealers with technicians to close the skilled trades gap. Our goal was simple. We were set out to follow three key principles. First, be simple to navigate for service members and dealerships. My team and I take on as much of the logistical and paperwork workload as possible. Second, add value to the service member and their potential employer. To do this, we provide free training to the candidates. This helps sets them up for success, and it helps translate the skills that they've gained in the military into terms civilian employers can understand. And lastly, we stay focused on positive outcomes. Our goal isn't charity or good press. Our goal is the successful employment of our participants. Since 2019, our dealers have hired approximately 800 veterans, including hosting over 300 SkillBridge interns, which has become a cornerstone of our military hiring program. Today, I urge the subcommittee to consider stronger partnerships between the government and employers to manage transition programs like SkillBridge. Employers are on the front lines of the workforce development. We understand the skills needed, the gaps, and the potential that veterans can bring to their organizations. By involving employers directly, we can ensure programs are relevant and responsive to a rapidly changing labor market. Here are three key recommendations. First, formalize employer advisory councils to help shape transition programs like SkillBridge, ensuring alignment with industry needs. Second, expand incentives for small and mid-sized employers to hire veterans and participate in programs like SkillBridge. At John Deere, we're able to leverage our size and infrastructure to help our independent dealers navigate this process. Many small businesses would benefit from a similar model. Third, create a centralized employer portal to streamline veterans' benefits, track outcomes, and share best practices across industries. Well-intentioned businesses often struggle to navigate the existing systems and connect with the right resources. In closing, I ask for your leadership to create a future where the government, veterans, and employers have a clear path to create positive economic opportunities. It's often said that the best recruiting tool the military has is a service member that becomes a successful civilian. Thank you for your time and commitment to those who've worn the uniform.
The gentleman yields. Mr. Bostic, your written testimony will be entered into the record, and I'm going to throw a little Semper Fi to you too. Kilo Company, is that right?
Yes, sir. Kilo 324.
Okay, Al-Anbar? Al-Anbar? Yes, sir. Garden Spot, wasn't it? It was not at all. Yeah. The chair now recognizes Mr. Vang for 5 minutes. Before I say this, Mr. Vang, I've been to your facility, and it is remarkable. What you guys do there is life-changing for so many people. It gets not just the veteran side, I'm talking about some of the other folks that are there. They take tremendous pride in getting up and going to work. They're part of the community. They're supporting themselves and their family. And I want to personally thank you for changing the lives of thousands of people. It is just remarkable. So with that, sir, I yield to you for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, ranking members, members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today on strengthening the veteran workforce through non-traditional career path in manufacturing. My name is Vang. I'm here on behalf of ORC Industries, a not-for-profit manufacturer dedicated to creating meaningful employment opportunities, especially for individual with disabilities and for our veterans. Across the country, manufacturers are facing workforce shortage. National Association of Manufacturers estimates by 2030, up to 2.1 manufacturing positions will need to be filled. It is a readiness problem, it is an economic opportunity problem, and for our veterans in particular, a missed chance to connect people who are ready to serve and work that truly matters. One of the most overlooked part of the sector is cut and sew manufacturing. It is a highly specialized trade, but not unlike many fields, it does not require a 4-year degree. It does require training, discipline, precision, and the ability to show up every day to do the job right. When service member transitions out of the military, many of them are not looking for a traditional office job. They want to work, the work that they want is hands-on. They're used to being part of a team. They're motivated by mission and not a paycheck. They're exactly the conditions. These are the conditions, especially on a manufacturing floor, a shared mission, clear standards, and a culture where everyone's role matters. Unfortunately, significant barriers keep many veterans from considering these paths. First, there is an awareness problem. When service members go through transition counseling, manufacturing, especially cut and sew, is rarely presented as a high-value, long-term career. Many veterans simply don't know these jobs exist. We can change that. I urge Congress to ensure that career transitions, explicitly including pathway to manufacturing, including trades like cut and sew. The Department of Labor registered apprenticeship programs are powerful tools. We need to use it, we need to extend it, provide additional training, fundings, incentive for veterans in these roles. These will increase the pipeline. Secondly, there are constraints in the GI Bill that can be used. Many veterans need short-term, skill-focused training programs, not 2 or 4 year in classroom. Right now, it can be difficult to fully utilize the GI Bill. We need to condense training, stackable credentials in trades like cut and sew manufacturing, expand eligibility and flexibility. Third, the cost of training falls entirely on the employer. For a not-for-profit manufacturer like ORC and many other small, mid-sized businesses, the desire to hire and train veterans is there, but the margins are tight. Every dollar invested in training has to be carefully weighted. Congress can help by de-risking the investments, targeted training grants, tax credit, dedicated funding for veterans-focused apprenticeship and work experience program. ORC's mission is to employ individuals with disability while strengthening America's manufacturing base, including creating opportunity for veterans. Our cut and sew lines produce critical defense textile products. Veterans working on these products can see direct line between their work and the readiness of the next generation of service member. At ORC, employees receive an on-site training regardless of their educational background. We do not require a 4-year degree. We require willingness to learn, to work as a team, to meet with high quality standard. We promote from within. In closing, I want to emphasize 3 key points. First, cut and sew manufacturing, skilled trade more broadly, offers scalable, non-traditional career path for veterans that do not require a 4-year degree, but do offer dignity, purpose, and advancement. Secondly, better awareness of transitional programs, more flexibility. Third, when we do this, we don't just help veterans. We strengthen America's manufacturing capability or national readiness. We close critical work gaps, support domestic production of defense textile and other strategic goods, and demonstrate that this country still values skilled trades as a vital part of our economy. Thank you for your time and for your commitment to expanding opportunity for those who serve.
The gentleman yields. Thank you, Mr. Vang. Your written testimony will be entered into the record. And for anybody that's wondering, in fact, everyone from the state of Wisconsin has the same tie. I know, right? It's kind of cool. All right, we'll now proceed to questioning. The chair now recognizes Ranking Member Pappas for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank our panelists for their testimony today. I think it's all important for us to consider as we think about how we match up the skills and potential of our veterans who are being separated from service with the opportunities that are out there and the need in so many critical sectors of our economy. And I appreciate the work that you're all doing and how you're bringing together education and labor and the private sector to help solve this problem and to help make sure our veterans have everything they need to thrive. Mr. Bostic, if I can start with you, I want to thank you for what you've put on the table here today and talking a little bit more about your military hiring program that you stood up. Sounds like you did it in a way that provided the best opportunity for veterans to have access to it. And so I thank you for the feedback that you've provided in terms of how we can improve things with respect to veteran employment. You talked about employer advisory councils to better reflect the feedback from the private sector, incentives for smaller employers to participate, which absolutely is something that Congress needs to focus on. It shouldn't just be big business that is able to navigate these programs and create opportunities for veterans, because we know most of our employers fall into the small business category. But I just want to see if I could get a little bit more detail from you on this central portal idea that you had. There are so many different programs out there with overlapping points of contact and employment coordinators with responsibilities that overlap with each other. Can you talk about the value in having this in one place and whether you think Congress needs to give better guidance to various departments to consolidate and delineate responsibilities and ensure that agencies are working together with the end goal of opening more doors to veterans?
Certainly, and thank you for the question. Yes, absolutely, a centralized portal, some single point of communication that streamlines exactly what benefits a veteran qualifies for or what benefits an employer would qualify for would be extremely helpful. It kind of mirrors how I run the program with our military hiring program. We're the single point of contact for the veterans and the service members that come to us, as well as the dealers. We don't get too heavily involved within the specific benefits. I'm just the matchmaker between the veterans, service members, and the dealerships. But that process of having somebody that knows there's one phone call they can make, there's one email address they can send an email off to, or one website they can go to and get a single point of information is extremely helpful.
Well, thanks very much for your feedback. Mr. Ham, if I can turn to you, thanks as well for talking a little bit about the career development focus that your company has had, and appreciate you relating some of the feedback from the American Trucking Association and talking about some of the legislation that we've considered and hopefully will consider soon to cut red tape and help more veterans secure employment in the trucking industry. And I thank the ATA for supporting that legislation. Has the ATA seen any impact on a bill that we already passed and was signed into law last year, the Veteran Improvement Commercial Driver's License Act? And do you have any recommendations on other steps Congress should be taking to pay close attention to this issue in terms of implementation?
I thank the ranking member for his question. We've already seen impact across, especially agencies that have multiple locations across multiple states. The ability to have, the old inability to not be able to have students have access to their GI Bill benefits just because you were another state location of a corporation or an entity that had it already approved in another state was burdensome on the veterans trying to use their benefits. So we have already seen in the short, just a year that it's been in effect, we've already seen progress in having students have access to funding through the GI Bill benefits to get quality education at these quality training providers.
Well, thanks for that feedback. That's important. Mr. LaBarbera, if I can talk to you a little bit about CDL as well. You mentioned in your written testimony about the bad actors that are out there. Can you talk a little bit more about the impact that this has on the lives of student veterans and what we should be paying attention to make sure that there are some guardrails and that we're protecting ultimately veterans to be able to get access to the right programming so that they can get the skills they need to have good paying jobs?
Yes, thank you. So anywhere where somebody can gain a few dollars, I feel there are people out there that will do that. And there's all these programs where they'll bring a veteran in, they'll spit them out with a license, and then you're on your own. That's not what we do as the Teamsters and the programs that we work with, is you come in with us, we train you, and then you go into a good career that has sustaining for your family and medical benefits, and to be able to provide for your family for your whole life.
Thanks very much. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. The chair now recognizes Mr. Siscomani from Arizona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Grant, welcome. Thanks for being here, sir. With Universal Technical Institute's headquarters and major campus being in Arizona, you connect firsthand with veterans that are looking for technical and vocational training programs. We talked a little bit about in the previous panel on the demand and the interest from veterans being way higher on the four-year degree versus some of these vocational programs that, quite frankly, they're in a higher need. I was kidding around in the last panel than any of the other maybe professions out there, more on the technical side. But yet we see a 3.5% or so of the interest in that. That's a challenge that I think we need to take as a society overall to say, how do we promote that more, especially among our veterans that I think are eager to get in there. Most of the people that go to these programs graduate debt-free, and they start making a good living, definitely more than what I was making with a bachelor's degree in political science right after college, and with student loan debt as well. So I'm trying to get a gauge here. What policy or administrative barriers impede veterans from enrolling in technical programs like this one, and how can Congress help expand access to high-wage technical careers?
Sure. What a great question, and it's come up a couple of different times in the conversations here. So I'm glad it's part of the conversation. First of all, the Vets Opportunity Act, HR 1458, starts to address some of the barriers that currently stand in the way of people picking these sort of careers. I think the best way to think about it is from sort of a high level. You're coming out of the military and you want to access your GI Bill. You can either go to a four-year school, or you could go to a technical school, but not every technical school, and not every program in every technical school, and not every technical school that has hybrid or online programs. Which one sounds easier for you to make a decision?
Yeah, no, I agree. So can you tell me why that is?
Well, because it's the way the statutes are written.
So the statutes are written that only certain technical programs apply?
Taught certain ways, and certain accredited institutions can go. Or you could go to every four-year school. And so when you're coming out and you want to take advantage of the
Sure.
GI Bill because it's well-earned and you're going to be a great person out there in the world, there's just a lot of having to think it through that happens when you're thinking about
It
technical.
almost feels like the system is guiding our veterans or anyone to go into that four-year degree route versus anything else. It almost seems like discouraging to go a different route.
That gets to, there's really two issues. That gets to the second issue, which is there's a very long-standing cultural bias to go to four-year schools. And we have 153 career counselors on high school campuses. There are hundreds of high schools that will not allow our students, our career counselors on their campuses because they don't want their kids to go to technical schools. We need to continue to break that down and get more programs into the high schools, into the community colleges, and then clean up some of the language that makes it easier for someone to make decisions.
I'm all for that. I'm running out of time. I can't really see my time, but I feel that it's coming. 1:45. Okay. I'm sitting in that one angle that you can't see either clock here. It's not that my eyesight is that bad, I promise. But I want to continue this conversation with you. You know, we had a veteran, actually, a plumber that came over to our house. And when he was leaving and we were looking at the invoice, I told my wife, we're in the wrong business here. This is a good paying job, and for our veterans, we love that this is happening, and we need to encourage more people to get in there as well. So I'll switch real quick with the time that I have left on CDL. So Mr. Ham, if I can ask you this. My dad, who, talk about the stigma and all this, my family, as I think some of you know this, immigrated from Mexico. So when my parents were like, what do you want your son to be? Some careers were not what they would have preferred. But now looking back, it's like, it could have been, for many people, that perspective changing. My dad had a CDL. He was a bus driver most of the time that we've been in this amazing nation. So the trucking industry reports a high need for commercial drivers, certified drivers, and highlights that 12.9% of veterans already hold a CDL. right? So I went to one of the training sites, and they focus heavily in recruiting veterans as well. Can you talk a little bit about that? What can the VA do better here in supporting and training these programs, and the GI Bill with the VR&E program?
I can't really speak specifically to the VR&E, but I can tell you that interest in the supply chain, interest in commercial driver's license is not just it's a security issue. It's a national security issue. This is an area that we have to spend money on. We have to focus on. I think, multiple people on the panel have talked about SIMVOST and the appropriate nature in which we fund.
The gentleman's time has expired. The chair now recognizes Mr. Ramirez from Illinois.
Thank you, from the great state of Illinois. Thank you, Chairman. And I want to thank all of you for being here with us today. Really appreciate the work that you do to ensure that our veterans are getting good, paying, living wage jobs so that they can retire with dignity. Look, the work that we do in this committee is incredibly important. And frankly, it's our responsibility to ensure that we're safeguarding and protecting the full benefits our veterans earn and deserve. And access to quality education is one of those promises we've made to veterans, and it's our job every single day to deliver for them. However, in recent years, student veterans have been targeted by bad actors, folks who are seeking to enrich themselves by exploiting veterans' GI Bill benefits. I find that unacceptable. I've been talking about it since I got here to Congress 3 years ago. Veterans should be able to choose an educational program that meets their needs while being confident that their choice is going to result in high-quality education that ultimately results in good, paying jobs. When a student veteran is defrauded by bad faith actors, it's only the right to be able to have a recourse to restore their GI Bill benefits. And that's why almost 3 years ago, I introduced the Student Veteran Benefits Restoration Act of 2025. The bill would ensure that veterans who've been victims of fraudulent practices by predatory institutions of higher education receive the educational benefits that they were entitled to so they can actually graduate and get the jobs that they deserve. We actually passed this bill out of the House with bipartisan support and with a lot of support from the chairman here last Congress. So I want to make sure that I, for the record, note that I'm urging my colleagues to support the bill as a first step to protecting our veterans from this fraudulent behavior. Now, I want to talk about 2017. Congress made a deliberate decision to exclude non-degree independent study programs from GI Bill eligibility due to the rampant fraud and exploitation in non-degree independent study programs. Now, Mr. Grant, I wanted to ask you a question. What do you think, in your opinion, has changed now to justify allowing non-degree independent study programs to use the GI Bill benefits when we know that they're still being exposed to the same risks that we saw back then? What has changed for you?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to to respond to that. Number one, I won't pretend to be the voice of an entire educational industry. I can speak very highly for Universal Technical Institute and its outcomes. I also would like to follow up on one of your other questions around the number of employed veterans that are out in the market after 6 months, because your statistic is accurate, which gets to the notion of quality of education, but it's not complete. And the reason is that because the military benefits are 36 months, many of our veterans, 3,300 we educated last year, go on and do another program. And so once they graduate from one program, say it takes a year, they'll go on and do another 6-month or 9-month program. They don't get credit for going to school for that other program. Anyway, so we pride ourselves on their outcomes and the high degree of integrity around the industry alignment, and we're very proud of what we put out in the market in terms of veteran graduates.
That's great. So let me ask you, I'm really concerned about bad actors in veterans education. I think you are as well, and I know from the work that you do. I guess my question is, like, what are we doing to ensure that we're preventing these risks from continuing to happen? And I have a little bit of time, so I just need to get to a next question.
Sure.
So if I can, I'll come back to you.
Sure.
Mr. Bostic, your company participated in the SkillBridge, which has employment rates above 90%. Meanwhile, we're seeing the consequences of programs like VetTech overpromising and undelivering. So, Mr. Bostic, what should the VA and Congress be looking for to distinguish high-quality training providers from those who offer training without real career opportunities at the end, where they end up having to go to other programs and other programs?
That's a fantastic question. Thank you. I'll allude to what's been mentioned several times in this testimony already, is to track outcomes, especially in the skilled trades where we have such a deficit across all industries, from transportation, manufacturing, repair, all of those. There's really no reason why a training institution or a company wouldn't be able to put somebody through a training program and get them employed. So for me, when looking at any program, and especially how I look at our own program and evaluate its success, is to look at, how many veterans, how many service members are we actually getting employed.
So let me ask one last question in these 7 seconds. Do you believe restoring benefits to veterans who are defrauded would be beneficial for higher employment rates and veteran career progression?
I believe so, it would, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlelady's
But I
time
yield
has
back.
expired. The gentlelady yields. The chair now recognizes Representative King Hines from the Northern Mariana Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's not too often where I sit in front of folks who have shared their successful transition from military life to civilian life. And so I want to start with you, Mr. LaBarbera. Thank you for your service. Congratulations on your retirement. You stated in your testimony that, that journey has been successful for you, and I just really want to hear more about it to better understand where the gaps are and how we can look at the system that we have in terms of policy to formulate some of these action plans.
Sure. So for my experience, I came out and I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity in my reserve status. I think that the big gap is education for the young service member that comes out. I know, there's TAP in the service, there's a lot of different things that are out there, but there's so much information that comes out. And from veterans that I talk to on a regular basis, what I see is they're just looking for opportunities on things to do, and they're kind of, I'll use the analogy of throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing what sticks, sort of. So I think just a little more education and a little more one-on-one time with them, maybe during that transition period, on what is a viable option for them. And one thing that I've heard a lot today from everybody here is, a skilled trade is really, it's not something that people should be looking down on. It is a great career path, whether it be with the Teamsters or any other, in my opinion, organized union trade. That's something that people should be striving for.
So did you actively seek out the opportunities that you have now, or was this something that was connected to you through some nonprofit that directly deals with the VA?
No, I was not through any nonprofit. It was a simple referral process. Somebody said, would you like to, come work here and drive a truck? I said, sure. And then after my second deployment, when I had returned home, I had the opportunity through referrals to join Local 282 and begin my excellent story.
Okay, thank you for that. My next question is to Mr. Bostic or Mr. Vang. You both spoke about incentivizing companies, and I wanted to kind of further flesh out what that would look like in terms of policy. So,
I believe that, it's really just opening up, the door for veterans here, meaning that, helping, a lot of the costs, we as the employer take on that burden, especially with the training. For us at ORC, I do have tuition reimbursement program for our employees. But the goal here is getting them trained, getting them in, taking them through the process, and it costs a lot of money, from my time, all of the management time, to the training time, to the employer's time, to the lead person time. So, having incentive out there to help employers, especially when our budget is tight,
okay.
would be beneficial to open that door.
What would that look like specifically?
I mean, average, if you really look at it, cost of training is between $3,000 to $5,000 per individual, an employee. So, being able to, take on that burden with subsidies coming in would really, really help us expand that door for all of our veterans.
Okay, I have about a minute left. Mr. Bostic, can you chime in on some of those suggestions that you stated during your testimony, specifically the incentive part?
Yes, ma'am. The I'll echo what was said earlier with one of the biggest upfront costs is training. Remarkably very similar dollar figures on the equipment technician side. In addition to wages, the training is one of the largest upfront costs. We're able to discount, provide for free a lot of our internal training to service members. I know the dealerships that have hired our service members, they provide a lot of training up front as well. Several of our dealers will even sponsor veterans to go on to an accredited community college, an actual diesel tech program, and don't require the service members to use their own GI Bill benefits to do so.
All right, thank you for that. I yield my time.
The gentleman who yields the chair now recognizes Mr. McGarvey from the great state of Kentucky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. LaBarbera, I want to start with you today. You warned about predatory CDL programs targeting veterans. What safeguards should Congress put in place to make sure that the GI Bill funds only and supports high-quality training providers?
I'm not sure I have an exact recommendation of what safeguards can go in place, but I think really looking at them, and if you look at, like I said before, something that leads into a career and not just a CDL program, I think, focusing the time and resources on that, I think would be beneficial.
No, thank you. And Mr. Bostic, John Deere's SkillBridge program has already shown how veterans can move straight into dealership careers where employers are directly involved. So building on that success, what should VA do to formalize employer advisory councils and make it easier for small businesses to take part in SkillBridge?
I don't have a good answer. Honestly, it's a complicated issue as far as getting the right people involved at the right time for the right purposes. And again, I do not have a ton of interaction with the VA benefits. As I said earlier, I would connect them with dealers. It's just in my own personal experience at trade shows or career shows or events similar to this one, when you have employers together talking about the gaps that they need filled, best practices, and especially when they have the ear of legislatures in the same area, those sort of conversations foster a lot of change and a lot of growth. So anything along those similar lines would be beneficial.
Thank you. And I think what you all are saying is what we want as well, right? Veterans don't just need programs, veterans need jobs. And we got to make sure that programs, even if they're well-intentioned programs up here, are actually leading to veterans getting jobs. We know that employer-focused pathways work. We know that short-term education programs need accountability. We know that there needs to be transparency from the VA, especially how they're implementing the Dole Act and Rudisill. And so, I want to make sure that the transparency is there, the accountability is there, and that when the rubber meets the road, and our veterans who are motivated, who are skilled, are coming into civilian life, that we're able to help with that transition from the military into getting a good job where they can take care of themselves and take care of their families just as they took care of us when they have the uniform on. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
The gentleman yields, and I recognize myself for 5 minutes. What has come up repeatedly is the education industrial complex, and that's what that is. It's essentially turned into a racket. Let's be honest. We got these kids going to school. They get out with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt and zero ability to be employed. And that's just wrong, and it's got to stop. And, I guess I could say I have a complicated relationship with higher education because, we need to have these schools. But you got to remember, someone did go to a 4-year institution and then maybe for a couple extra years, and they got a master's in electrical engineering. But then they handed the plans to a dude that went to your training program who did the wiring. So there's room for everybody here. We just got to understand that when we are out of foot soldiers, you can't win a war. And that's who you guys are representing, just to be super clear. Mr. Bostic, you made a very profound statement. One of the best recruiting tools is a highly employed and happy veteran, because then you talk to your folks, and I appreciate it tremendously. I want to know your touch to the Transition Assistance Program. When's the last time your people have been on a military base and speaking to folks that are active duty that are on their way out of the service?
I make it a point to be to as many on-base career fairs
Okay.
as possible. We're a corporate sponsor with several organizations like Recruit Military, Hiring Our Heroes, and 50 Strong, and participate them. And every time that I'm on a military base, I make it a point to go and talk to the Transition Assistance Office to make sure that they're aware of our program and our benefits.
Okay, me and Chris got to make sure that you get there more often, and that door is open for you. Mr. Vang, have you guys ever been over to Fort McCoy or to Volk Field to talk to the folks that are separating?
Yes, actually, I'm actually stationed right at Fort McCoy.
Okay.
So I do work closely with the team there. But again, especially in our manufacturing cut and sew, it's actually really, really difficult. It is a skill set.
Yeah.
Okay, and so it's tough.
If you guys don't know, they make our white hats, which is kind of cool. The Dixie Cup, that's what you Marines call it, I know. Mr. Grant, what's your touch to TAP program?
We have 26 employees who are former military that are on 26 bases around the country, giving career counseling seminars on a regular basis.
Okay, let's make that 50.
All right.
Okay, we got a lot of bases.
I'd also like to say I didn't get the memo on the tie. I am from the great state of Wisconsin.
Where are you from in Wisconsin?
I was born in Milwaukee, raised in Racine, UWM graduate.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, let's get the memo out next time. First Sergeant, what's your touch to the TAP program?
So our touch is through the Helmets to Hard Hats program, where there's regional managers that visit every site that's available to them, every base, and anytime they're there. They, I think it's roughly 25,000 veterans they touch on a regular basis that contact Helmets to Hard Hats seeking a career.
Okay, Mr. Ham?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, we're on the bases every single week. We've got a team of people that travel the country every single week and are attending the TAP program briefings and actively trying to recruit folks to come to our great industry.
Okay, and we got some of my fellows back there with those funny hats on. We got to make sure that you guys are connected to our VSOs also. It's critically important. So we need the American Legion, we need the VFW, we need disabled vets. She's in the back corner hiding. From DVA, we got to make sure that you guys are connected. And as Mr. McGarvey said before he departed, it's about jobs. We have an issue with the SkillBridge program. And we are trying to make sure, we've paid for this thing, and we're kind of getting the Heisman once in a while from the active duty component. So we're going to start working with those cats, because if we're not filling those billets, or if they're going to a certain pay grade, which they are, that's not okay. And so we'll be working, I'm also on the House Armed Services Committee, so we bring this up because we got to get those people into these programs that we have, because they're critically important. With that, I'm going to yield back. I want to thank you all for coming to discuss veterans employment. It's critically important, as I just said. It's clear that this is an invaluable program for our veterans, and something we need more guarantees for jobs for our veterans when they get out. I hope to continue working with Chris, my friend, and the rest of the committee to improve the administration of VA's approved apprenticeship programs and enhance them in the private sector and nonprofit sector to continue to help future generations. And with that, I'd like to yield back to Mr. Pappas for any comments you may have.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the witnesses all attending today and for your testimony. I know it takes a lot out of your day to be able to travel here, but we benefit from having your voice in this conversation. We need to be able to track skill growth, income, and career building within the industry long-term to truly see if these employment programs that we've been talking about today are successful for veterans. I took notice that almost all the written testimony contained references to TAP. Getting employment wrong, especially during a transition out of the military or between duty statuses for our National Guard and Reserve component service members, put the veteran and their family at risk for negative outcomes like housing insecurity, food insecurity, substance abuse, and suicidal ideations. That's why we need to ensure that veterans are protected from scams and programs that waste their time. TAP wasn't the subject of this hearing, but it's a crucial piece of this discussion. And so I hope to see improvements on the program in the upcoming NDAA, including a TAP curriculum for spouses and families. I was disappointed to read in the American Legion statement that the Department of Defense recently declined to meet with them on TAP, and I hope to continue rigorous oversight of that program with you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for everyone's contributions, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous materials. Without objection, so ordered. This hearing is adjourned.